Iran has launched a barrage of ballistic missiles at Israel. The missile attack forces Israelis to take shelter in bunkers. Israel's Iron Dome seen intercepting incoming missiles. The IDF now claims that at least 180 missiles were fired by Iran into Israel. The Iranian forces say missiles targeted Israel's military bases, and Israel has warned Iran that the attack will have consequences, that they will retaliate. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has ordered deployment of the U.S. Army in Middle East to assist Israel. It's a big escalation in the conflict in Middle East, with Iran last night launching dozens of ballistic missiles on Israel, and that in fact has forced the civilians there to rush to bomb shelters. U.S. meanwhile has declared its support for Israel's big decisions there being taken by the Joe Biden administration.
הערב איראן שוב תקפה את ישראל במאות טילים. המתקפה הזאת נכשלה. היא סוכלה בזכות מערך ההגנה האווירי של ישראל, שהוא המתקדם ביותר בעולם, ואני מברך את צה"ל על ההישג המרשים. היא גם סוכלה בזכות הערנות והאחריות שגיליתם אתם, אזרחי ישראל. ואני מודה גם לארצות הברית על תמיכתה במאמץ ההגנה שלנו. איראן עשתה הערב טעות גדולה, והיא תשלם על כך. המשטר באיראן לא מבין את נחישותנו להגן על עצמנו ואת נחישותנו לגמול לאויבינו. אלה שלא מבינים זאת, הם יבינו. נעמוד בכלל שקבענו. מי שתוקף אותנו, אנחנו תוקפים אותו. זה נכון בכל מקום כשאנחנו נלחמים בציר הרשע. זה נכון ליהודה ושומרון, זה נכון לעזה, ללבנון, לתימן, לסוריה, וזה נכון גם לאיראן. אנחנו נלחמים בציר הרשע בכל מקום.
Iran launched a large-scale attack of over 180 ballistic missiles directly from Iranian soil at the state of Israel. There were a small number of hits in the center of Israel and some other hits in the southern Israel. The majority of the incoming missiles were intercepted by Israel and a defensive coalition led by the United States. Iran's attack is a severe and dangerous escalation. There will be consequences. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are at the highest levels of readiness. Our operational plans are ready. We will respond wherever, whenever, and however we choose.
The Israeli military has warned Iran that the attack would have consequences. U.S. President Joe Biden, meanwhile, has ordered the deployment of U.S. Army in the Middle East to assist Israel in wake of Iranian rocket attacks.
Before I began, I wanted to say a few words about Iran's missile attack on Israel today. At my direction, the United States military actively supported the defense of Israel, and we're still assessing the impact. But based on what we know now, the attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. And this is testament to Israeli military capability and the U.S. military. It's also a testament to intensive planning between the United States and Israel to anticipate and defend against the brazen attack we expected. Make no mistake, the United States is fully supportive of Israel. And I've been spent the morning and part of the afternoon in the Situation Room, and meeting with my whole national security team and consulting with the Israelis indirectly, because in terms of their impact on us. And the national security team has been, as I said, in constant contact with Israeli officials and their counterparts, and is going to continue to be brought to me throughout the day. We're still out to share updates when we get them.
So today, Iran launched approximately 200 ballistic missiles at Israel in a reckless and brazen attack. I condemn this attack unequivocally. I'm clear-eyed. Iran is a destabilizing, dangerous force in the Middle East, and today's attack on Israel only further demonstrates that fact. Earlier today, I was in the Situation Room with President Biden and our national security team as we monitored the attack in real time and ensured that the protection of U.S. personnel in the region is paramount. I fully support President Biden's order for the U.S. military to shoot down Iranian missiles targeting Israel, just as we did in April. We are still assessing the impact, but initial indications are that Israel, with our assistance, was able to defeat this attack. Our joint defenses have been effective, and this operation and successful cooperation saved many innocent lives. As I have said, I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist militias. My commitment.
Obviously, this is a significant escalation by Iran, a significant event, and it is equally significant that we were able to step up with Israel and create a situation in which no one was killed in this attack in Israel, so far as we know at this time. We are now going to look at what the appropriate next steps are to secure, first and foremost, American interests, and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible.
India is, of course, monitoring the situation very, very closely. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar expressed his concern on the wider conflict between Israel and Iran. Speaking at the conversation at the Carnegie Endowment in US, Jaishankar called Hamas attack on Israel a terrorist attack. He also underlined that any response by any country must take into account international humanitarian law and be careful about implications for civilian population.
If one looks at the current situation, I think it would be right to start off with October 7th. We regard October 7th as a terrorist attack. We understand that Israel had a need to respond, but we also believe that any response by any country has to take into account international humanitarian law, that it must be careful about any damage or any implications for civilian populations. And that given what has happened in Gaza, it is important to have some kind of international humanitarian effort out there.
We have some breaking inputs coming in. The conflict in the Middle East is only intensifying. Now, Iran has issued a warning to Israel after launching missile attack and confirming Iran now says will respond more severely. This, of course, is a warning for Israel, which is also planning a retaliation. Iran has warned Israel that they will be prepared to respond severely.
خون شهید مجاهد اسماعیل هنیه در تهران و نقض حاکمیت ملی جمهوری اسلامی ایران و همچنین شرارت‌های اخیر این رژیم جنایتکار در به شهادت رساندن فرماندهان و همچنین رهبر بزرگ حزب الله و مجاهد عظیم جناب سید حسن نصرالله و فرمانده رشید و شهید سپاه اسلام سردار سرلشکر پاسدار عباس نیلفروشان و همچنین در انتقام از خون کودکان مظلوم غزه و همچنین مردم مقاوم و مظلوم لبنان عملیات وعده صادق دو را با نام
So while Israel has said that there will be consequences after the missile attacks from Iran, after Iran confirmed that 200 missiles, a barrage of missiles, in fact, were fired on the Israeli soil. Now, Iran has also issued a warning. Iran says that it will respond more severely. We have Madhav Nalapat joining us on the broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us. How do you see this conflict impacting India? Because that's going to be very, very important to track. India is very closely monitoring this.
Look, India has been following a very cautious and wise policy. And the central point of that policy is that terrorism is something that needs to be condemned and that needs to be fought. And the second very important point is that, we need a world without terrorism and a world with peace. So from that point of view, in my way of looking at it, I think, frankly, Iran has made a mistake. It is like bait. A fisherman puts bait on a hook and then drops the hook. And then there's a big fish grabs that particular bait. Now, the bait was Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and Iran has taken the bait. Now, in my view, I think there is a perfect reason to go after Iran, go after its capabilities, and in my view, this could affect the regime in Iran. I think the intention of the United States certainly is for regime change in Iran to ensure that the clerics do not anymore control Iran, and if they suffer a military defeat in the way that Hezbollah has, in the way that Hamas has, then the clerics in Iran are going to be subject to the people of Iran. And the people of Iran, you remember when Masa Amini was killed and you saw the mass protest on the streets. Now, the reality is that the public are not happy with the clerical regime. They're not happy with the constraints of the regime. And President Pezeshkian has come to power on the basis of that unease.
Professor Nalapat, US entering the scene, will this change the entire political landscape in Iran? Is that what you're arriving at? Also, will others be dragged into this?
Look, there's no question of being dragged into it. As far as the US coming into the picture, the fact is that Donald Trump has been saying Joe Biden is anti-Israel. He's not going to help Israel. So Joe Biden, for the sake of his candidate Kamala Harris, will have to show a lot of strength where it comes to dealing with Iran. Because Donald Trump has accused him of being soft on Iran. And frankly, he has pointed to the Obama administration and talked about the Obama administration giving money to Iran and allowing it to have a deal with the United States. So Biden has to show that he's tough on Iran, and that is very important electorally. Iran is a very hot button issue in the U.S. political system, and one of Trump's aces, the way Trump looks at it, is that Biden is weak on Iran.
Right, so US clearly they're hitting two birds with one stone. Thank you very much, Professor Nalapat, for joining us on the broadcast with your analysis. Now, the world leaders have strongly condemned attack on Israel. Leaders including Keir Starmer and Anthony Albanese are closely monitoring the situation as well. They say the situation in Israel is unacceptable.
In the last few hours, the Iranian regime has launched over 200 ballistic missiles at civilian targets in Israel. It's too soon to assess the impact fully, but I utterly condemn this attempt by the Iranian regime to harm innocent Israelis, to escalate this incredibly dangerous situation and push the region ever closer to the brink. It cannot be tolerated. We stand with Israel and we recognise her right to self-defence in the face of this aggression. Iran must stop these attacks, together with its proxies like Hezbollah. Iran has menaced the Middle East for far too long. Chaos and destruction brought not just to Israel, but to the people they live amongst in Lebanon and beyond. Make no mistake, Britain stands full square against such violence. We support Israel's reasonable demand for the security of its people. I've spoken today to Prime Minister Netanyahu, the King of Jordan, President Macron, and Chancellor Scholz. In the last week, I've also spoken to other leaders, including Prime Minister McCarthy of Lebanon, President Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority, to try to find the space for a political solution to the conflicts in Lebanon and Gaza. Because I am deeply concerned that the region is on the brink, and I'm deeply concerned about the risk of miscalculation. The situation in Lebanon is increasingly grave. I want to repeat my advice to British nationals who are still in Lebanon. You must leave now. You should register your presence with government officials on our website. We have a chartered flight, and we're doing everything we can to get people out. But the situation is extremely volatile. So if you have the means to leave, the time is now. Do not wait.
We, of course, condemn Iran's actions. We once again reiterate the call that we've made along with the United States, the United Kingdom, the European Union, Italy, Germany, Japan, Saudi Arabia Qatar, the UAE, other nations as well, calling for a de-escalation. We're very concerned about Iran's actions, which is why we condemn them. It is a good thing that it would appear that the defence of Israel, supported by...
All right, we're now joined by Foreign Affairs expert Mr. Payne. Thank you very much for giving us your time. How are you viewing the situation in the Middle East?
Well, it was on expected line that Iran would do some kind of attack on Israel for the, assassination or killing of Nasrallah. It did something very similar in the month of April when they attacked with almost 400 loitering munitions and certain kind of missiles. But then they stopped it there, calling it that there would be no more attack. And I think after that Israel took it in the stride, but continued to do the attacks continue their battle against Hezbollah. It would be interesting to see what happens this time, because this time the proportion of attack or the intensity of the missiles, mostly ballistic missile, is of a different category altogether. It is unlikely that Israel will let it go without any kind of response. The kind of response Israel gives will decide or determine the contours of the conflict, into which direction it will go. Alternately, it may so happen that Israel will not directly right now attack Iran, but it would continue with its operations against Hezbollah and other organizations in Syria and Lebanon. So it's a very volatile situation. United States invariably has activated its naval fleet over there to come in aid of Israel to thwart and intercept the missiles, if at all, if they come anymore. But if United States get involved, invariably the Russians will try to come and protect and save the Iranians.
All right.
So it might be an extension of the theater of Ukraine war happening here.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Payne, for joining us on the broadcast with your analysis. We also have Srinjoy Chaudhary, a senior editor, joining us on the broadcast. The terror attack that took place in Israel in October 2023 and now this, it has shaped the world's view. World leaders monitoring the situation very closely are condemning Iran's attack.
Oh yeah, this is really an escalation. Who wants an escalation at this very difficult time? It's exactly a year since that attack took place by the Hamas on Israel. About 1,200 people were killed. From then began this cycle of violence. You first had this war in Gaza that's still continuing. 50,000 people have died, including women and children. And Jaishankar has said that Israel had every right to retaliate. But we also have to look at humanitarian issues. Then you had the Hezbollah continuing to rain missiles on northern Israel. And as a result of that, you had the pager attack, you had the walkie-talkie attack, and then the air attack in which Nasrallah was killed. Then, of course, these 180 missiles have been fired. Ballistic missiles have been fired by the Iranians on Israel. Now, we believe that the Iron Dome anti-missile system, which is American and has been given to the Israelis, has worked reasonably well, and many of these, or most of them, have been shot down, which of course ensures fewer casualties on the ground. We don't know what levels of casualties there are. And as a result of that, three things have to be watched out for. First, what will Israel do? How will they strike back vis-a-vis Iran? Will they hit Iran? Will they hit their colleagues in Syria or southern Lebanon? What is the Israel response going to be? Secondly, what will the Americans do? The Americans are already there. Their carriers are there, their cruise missiles are there, their fighters are there. Everyone is in battle readiness.
Right.
Thirdly, what will Iran do again? That's also something that has to be looked at.
Absolutely.
So
Israel continues to target the Hezbollah areas and has warned of consequences. Iran also, meanwhile, has issued a statement saying that they will respond severely. We'll keep tracking the situation. Srinjoy, thank you for getting us the details for the moment. A quick break.